Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week I continue my focus on obscure games by talking about Spellfire, Master the Magic, the second ever collectible card game, published just 2 months before Jihad: The Eternal Struggle. Spellfire was TSR's entry into the collectible card game market, and was an attempt to compete with Magic the Gathering. The game lasted until the end of TSR's existence. In fact, the last 3 sets sold out almost immediately. Some might argue that this is because those last 3 sets were shorter production runs, but it still showed that the game was commercially viable. Unfortunately, Wizards of the Coast bought TSR out when TSR got into financial troubles, and the rest is sad history. With this intro out of the way, though, sit back, relax, and enjoy as I talk about Spellfire. One of the cool things about the early days of collectible card games was the sort of Wild West, we'll try anything approach. There was a lot of experimentation because no one knew what was going to work and what wasn't. And Spellfire is the result of some of this early experimentation. It differentiated itself from Magic in a major way. Magic, you were trying to metaphorically kill your opponent. Spellfire, you were focusing on laying the bigger empire. As soon as you got 6 realms played, you won. And that was the difference. That's what made Spellfire such a different game. See, first off, realms had to be played in a specific order. That order was this. Now, what you would do is you would play your realms. The opponent would attack you, or you would attack your opponent. And where things got fun was how it worked. First off, that classic pyramid. You could only attack the most forward, unraised realms. Which means that the first realm that you lay down, you could lay down a realm that was very hard to take, and that would help you build your realms, build your empire better. However, there were ways to attack around that. Swimmers could attack any land that had a coastline pictured on the card. Flyers could attack any realm. Later on, there were Earthwalkers added in, and they could attack any realm that didn't have requirements as to what could attack it. And that's pretty much the ways around the pyramid arrangement. But you had your pool, which were the cards, heroes, artifacts, magic items that you had on the table. And then you could play stuff from your hand. You could attack with a card from your hand. You could add magic items or spells from your hand. And that was different, because it added a layer of strategy to the game. Because here's how you raised a realm. You attacked, and your opponent didn't have a defender. Now, when you made the decision you wanted to attack a realm, what you would do is you would attack with one champion. Your opponent would play one defender. And then you would compare their levels, their adjusted levels. And then whoever was losing could begin playing things to get them to the point of winning. Now, whoever lost, whichever hero, champion, what have you, lost, they go bye-bye. They get discarded. But just defending prevents the realm from being raised. So it could really be a case of, I have 2 champions and I'm trying to attack you. I see you only have 1 champion. You sacrifice that champion. And then I attack you again, thinking, oh, you don't have any champions, therefore, I've got you. Well, guess what? I can play a champion from my hand to defend. And I don't even have to win. I just have to defend. And if I, the attacker, don't have one more attacker, one more champion in my hand, you've just saved your realm. That was a sort of subtlety that was missing in other games. A sort of bluff, a sort of strategy. But that was what made Spellfire fun. It was a game where you never knew what was going to happen. Because you can play events that could trigger things. You can play spells that your opponent didn't know you had. Etc., etc. And you never knew what was going to happen. Of course, when you talk about Spellfire, you also have to talk about its rather interesting deck design principles. Before I continue, let me just say, if you like this video, please click like and subscribe down below. Leave me comments, tell me what you like, what you didn't like, what you'd like to hear me talk about more of in the future. Always looking for ways to help improve the channel. Support me on Patreon, link in the description. Every little bit helps. Keep me in books, keep me in old games, keep the channel going. That said, let's just get right back into this, shall we? Alright, so part of what made Spellfire unique was it had a number of restrictions built into the game. But these were built into deck design specifically. One of the first things was every card there was only one of. There was only one tier, only one Rock of Brawl, only one Elminster Shadowdale, only one Sword +1, etc., etc. in the deck. This also worked with the rule of the cosmos in play, where certain unique characters or items or etc. Realms, holdings, artifacts, champions, you could only have one of from anyone in play. So if I played an Elminster Sage of Shadowdale and you played an Elminster Sage of Shadowdale, you couldn't. Me having an Elminster Sage of Shadowdale prevented anyone else from putting out an Elminster Sage of Shadowdale. But there were other restrictions. First off, there were both maximum and minimum card values for certain cards. You had a minimum of 8 realms, a maximum of 15 realms. You had a minimum of 1 champion and a maximum of 20 champions. You had a maximum of 6 holdings, 10 artifacts, 12 magic items, 10 events. And when they were introduced, you had a maximum of 3 rule cards. And of course, remember, these are all, you can only have one of any of these in your deck. Now, continuing from there was, in Champions, you had restrictions on the levels. When I started, the restriction was 80 levels. It became a standard, though, in later editions of the card game, for it to be a maximum of 90 levels. And this determined a lot about your strategy. If you were going to build a deck that was about outlasting your opponent, you would build that deck with a lot of low to mid-level heroes. Some low to mid-level champions. If you were building a deck that was going to be a more aggressive deck, you'd be building it with more mid to high-level champions, trying to get the most bang for your champions when you put them out. Of course, with the restrictions on magic items, you wanted to pick the magic items or artifacts that were going to be the most effective. The ones that were going to give you the most utility. So, you might not put in something that gave you +1 level unless it did something else. But that is how deck design worked. You had to decide, am I going to be aggressive or am I going to be relying on endurance? And that is Spellfire in a nutshell. This was more of a brief overview, talking about the game. It was a great game. I really miss it. I still have all my cards. So, I just miss the game. It was novel for its time. It's still novel today. And that is my video for this week. Next week, I'll be pulling something else obscure out of the archive. So until then, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.